first one, so we'll get it so it's quicker.
Deal.
So,
All right.
deal.
So I don't have my phone. I was going to cheat and look at it. What were some of the goals?
We wanted to discuss, well, renting versus owning.
Yes, definitely.
And kind of share our perspective on that.
And start with more legal meets real estate, right?
Right.
Legal meets real estate and everything in between.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So, let's go.
And we want to help people.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that's an overarching theme.
Yes. Any way we can to help people
good.
in this discussion.
So we'll add more to it. First one. So obviously we'll tweak things as we go.
Yeah.
But jump right into it.
Yeah.
So this was actually a real conversation. You want to kind of go back to a few months ago?
Yeah. So this is a real conversation we actually had. So I've never owned any property before. And I'm dating someone who owns property and is in real estate, but never owned property before. I had a list of 4 reasons why I just didn't think it was the best play. I can only remember 3 of those reasons now, but but then Matt here was able to, we kind of like went back and forth and discussed all of those reasons, and so
and if we only remember 3, that's fine. There's a lot of reasons why people come up with they don't want to own a house, of course. But do you remember what the first reason was?
The first one that always comes to mind is that I've moved around a lot in my adult life, and I don't want to be stuck to any location. I want the freedom. I can move. So renting always seemed like the best choice. I don't want property to tie me down. So
that was number 1, and I mean I'm probably going to butcher it, but what I said back then still holds true. So when someone buys something, you have a property, and you can always sell it later. You can rent it out. Other people doesn't have to be me, can help you do that. But at the end of the day, if you go back 4 years just now and bought any property in the United States, you made a lot of money. I mean, many home prices have doubled. Now, we don't want to treat it like the stock market or you're gambling, but that is what we were discussing. So essentially, if you're renting, that's great. You pay your money every month, and it doesn't really go to anything. It just goes to that month. So I think the beautiful thing about owning a house is it's yours. So even if what you mentioned, Sonrisa, happens, you can then sell it. I don't think I would do that, depending on the time frame. We can always look at it. But I would very, very much, tell people to look into renting it out. And then people say other things, I don't want to manage it. There's management companies. So that is something where when you buy a house, if you look at trajectories, home values go up. So if you want to buy something, and instead of renting for 2 years, you bought it, and then 2 years changes your plan, and I know this is very eloquent, but guess what? You can sell it or rent it. And that rent, you could even rent through a bad time period. And that's what I don't think I told you last time. You could rent it for a year or 2, and then just like the last couple years, prices can skyrocket. Well, then guess what? Then you can sell it, take the profit, do whatever you want with it, and that is the part I don't think I got across last time. That is what can really, really benefit a lot of people. And so many people got lucky with the timing of buying a couple years ago, and they're selling now. But if you're renting it out and you're breaking even or making a few bucks, you can time it. You can legitimately time when you sell it when prices are high again. So did that answer your question a little more thorough this time?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that answers the question. So, and it does tie into the second question where I always felt like, people advise you own property. It's the best thing to do with your money. It's the best investment. I always thought that was a myth. I mean, there's lots of ways you can invest your money, and I thought it was sort of a myth, I don't think it's a one size fits all. Investment is individualized, and not necessarily property is the best place for everyone to put their money. So I always felt like that was kind of some kind of push and sort of a myth, but sort of what Matt just said, that it is a good investment.
And it's very tangible. So that was something. And I don't think we had a second question there. That just tied in. Do you remember what your second point was? Why you didn't want to buy?
That was one of my points, that it's not I thought it's actually not the best way to invest your money, that there are better ways.
So I think we start needing legal disclaimers, and I'll leave that up to Sonrisa. It is more individualized. And I forget what I said when we had this chat originally. But again, everyone has to do their own due diligence and see what they like. Mm-hmm. But, you put something in the stock market, that can go up and down. Look at everyone's 401ks. I mean, they've been doing well recently. I just always believe that it's more tangible. You have a control over it. You can rent a property or hopefully own it and then rent it out is what I wanted to say. And then, you know, you can improve it. You can raise rents. You have control over that. And that's if you're going to be self-managed. If not, you give it to a property management company. But typically, if you look at all those points, you're really only looking about, you know, what you're paying and what you're bringing in. And this is what I forgot, the tax benefit. So there's a tax benefit to owning. It's still a credit out there. And shout out to Carlos. Way back in the day, I helped him from Boeing buy a house, and I actually did his breakdown. So we went through this same kind of question and answer situation, and that's what we came to. He was renting it, let's call it $1,900 a month, and his mortgage was around $1,900 a month. So he thought it was a wash, and he wanted to own. The cool part is when you have a mortgage, your mortgage interest and what you're paying each month is actually deductible. So for him, it might have equated to, I'm just gonna say $5,000 a month. And I have this on the very first slide I did for Boeing first-time home buyers. $5,000 a year, sorry. $5,000 a year is what he could save. So that's basically $400 a month. And we'll go back and check the numbers, but then you take that $400 off of the $1,900 and you're really paying $1,500 a month. So it's cheaper. And you got to do the math, and who knows if that credit ever goes away. Legal disclaimer number 2, that is something where you got to look at the total picture. Not just what's coming in each month and going out each month, but your tax liability too. Because that's something that has really, really, really helped me, even when I still worked at Boeing, the number of write-offs. So that is where, you know, you might be making a little bit and you try to run your numbers on how much you're actually making. Well, guess what? You need to look at the big picture. And I'm glad I remember that. That is what I said last time.
Okay.
But a little bit more detail this time.
Yes. Okay.
So any questions with that? We don't have to rush this.
No.
Okay. No is a good answer. So wait, we covered 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the third question was?
The third one was, just the convenience and the effort. It's work to own a property. The upkeep, things break down, just the maintenance. If you're like me, on your weekends, you don't want to mow the lawn or replace a broken heater. You want to go to the gym, or you go on a hike, or go drink Starbucks. So just the amount of like work around the house that I see people put into their homes, you know, projects that take weekends and just constant upkeep, landscaping, all of it. So that was my argument, that it's a lifestyle choice that one might choose depending on how they want to spend, you know, our precious time here. So that was one of my arguments as well.
Valid point. I mean, I'm not totally against renting. I'm just saying in most situations, owning a home makes sense, not just financially. But I will answer this first from the financial perspective. Mm-hmm. Yes, those things cost money. They cost money. Your hot water heater breaks, you got to take care of it. Now, the interesting point is I rent out a lot of homes. And same thing, I'm involved or the tenant's involved. So when that hot water heater breaks, if yours breaks right here, you're still involved. I know you're not paying the bill and actually getting the people, but in some ways you are. You got to open the door, you got to be here. Sometimes knowing you wouldn't want a middleman. Mm-hmm. So depending on your personality type, you're still involved. And that point is very well taken. The money part, yeah, if you just call up, I'm not going to name any big companies here, a hot water heater could be $1,500. It could be $2,000. I've seen quotes for it. Yeah. And you start thinking like, that's a lot of money to go out. Mm-hmm. Well, the average one in Lowe's or Home Depot is say $450. And a plumber will probably hook it up for $150. You know, I want to say on the cheap, or again,
that sounds pretty low.
It's a big difference. $1,500 versus say $600 or $700 all in. So there's just, it's a different mentality, in my opinion. You really should, and I will help, or anybody will help if you're watching this in another state. You really want to know some contractors anyway, to help you out, to help family members out. And that's the part where I just think it's good. It's my personality. You're going to want to know the basics to a lot of things. And I feel that many people this day and age, they don't. We were joking the other day a little bit about even my cigarette lighter wasn't working in my car. And I knew roughly it was a fuse. I took a few days. My car had a spare fuse in there, popped it in, good to go. Other people may not know those things. So to me, you know, especially a condo, but let's take a house, you should know the basic mechanical systems. You should know how much it costs to replace them, ballpark, and when you buy it, you should do your due diligence. And that involves getting a record of all the stuff and then budgeting for it. So when something happens, it's not a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have hot water heaters and I can change them out pretty quick, but guess what? I wait until they go. Some are in basements, some are in garages. If the worst happens, it's not that bad. Meaning, someone shuts off the water, and then I get someone out there and we change it. It's not flooding an upstairs unit and ruining the carpet or ruining the walls. So there's other ways to look at it and mitigate your risk. And that is what I want to get across.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do that and you buy a house and you say, hey, the roof is 25 years old, I might have another 5-10 years out of it, but you budget for it. If the hot water heater is 10 years old, you're going to have to budget for that. And that's it. So some of the savings that I said on point number 2, you really should have a spreadsheet and you should allocate it. And you shouldn't always buy Starbucks, but you should have something, I don't want to say like a budget, you should have a budget and it should be accounted for. And if you account for a new roof in 5 years and you get 7 years out of it or 8 years out of it, great. When I bought my first home, the HVAC was, I don't know if I should say this, I think it was 30 years old. And the home inspector's like, yeah, you're going to have to replace this immediately. And I said, okay, it works though. He goes, yeah, but 30 years old, you're on borrowed time. Okay. 10 years later, I replaced it. Now, is that the greatest? No. But I had roommates living with me. We were splitting the bills, so it wasn't a hit to me because the system wasn't the most efficient. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. So there's just, there's different ways to look at it. And as far as your time, some people do want to be prim and proper. They want their property to look great. Mm-hmm. Great for them. I don't want to say I don't do that, but there's a give and take. You don't have to cut your grass every 3 days. You can also find creative ways. A neighborhood kid, if you have kids or people, they should do it. That's another belief of mine. Mm-hmm. But there's ways to do things that A, don't take as much time as some people kind of, will allude to. And B, your house doesn't have to look the greatest. I know people that put $100,000 into landscaping, and that's great, but it really isn't the same as a kitchen or a bathroom upgrade. So there's different things there, and you're thinking how much work, will it be? Mm-hmm. If you really break it down, it's not that much. You have a roof, you have a heater, you have a water heater, hopefully, and you have some other systems in the house that are fairly minimal. I mean, electrical panels shouldn't go bad, especially if you do your inspection out of the gate, excuse me, and you check, when it was installed, and you see everything. So I just want to kind of combat this point with you can mitigate a lot of those. And then a lot of what you hear or see on TV or other people saying this is what they do for a house, all these steps, I would say truncate it down to what's really, really essential. And then there's still going to be stuff there.
Yeah.
Budget for them. And that's it. Mm-hmm. Any other questions on that? I know it was kind of a big question.
If I'm being honest, that did not convince me.
No! Oh!
That sounded like so much.
To
be honest, it sounds like
to be fair,
a lot.
You never went through any of that.
And I've never went through it. And there's still, I don't know, and maybe that's just what I'm seeing with the people around me. It's a lot of work still, like that. Fair point. You can cut back, I guess, with the mowing the lawn and just do the minimal. You gotta clean your gutters. There's things where you can leaves if you have trees.
Good point.
And
cut the trees down.
And so these are things.
I'm pro trees.
And some of these activities are enjoyable to a lot of people.
Oh,
they want to spend time doing that.
And exercise. Exercise.
Yeah. So.
Now wait a minute. Good point. Because we're talking about buying a house, so you have to take care of everything. You can buy a condo. Mm. Condos will come with HOA fees or
That's
condo
kind of a
fees,
compromise.
And they include everything.
Yeah.
So this wasn't on the. We didn't talk about this.
It's kind of a compromise. Yeah.
But that's a compromise. You still own something. You still have the appreciation. Mm. But typically, it's referred to as walls in. Yeah. You're in charge of everything inside your house. Everything outside the house, give or take. Look at your condo policy or the HOA rules. That is where I think it'd be a great compromise. Especially if someone's on the go, a working professional, or any type of person working that doesn't either have the time or want to devote the time to everything Sunrisa said. Because honestly, I think that's a great compromise.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
And we figured it a roundabout way.
That's a good one, yeah.
But I think in high school or even grade school at some point, middle school, people should go through, life skills, and owning a home should be one of them. Or at least a rudimentary overview
so you
of
know
what
how
it
to
entails.
Do it, and then you can make a more educated decision
Yes, you can.
if you want to or not, for sure. So,
And we
Yeah.
can just talk randomly.
Yeah,
I know you had
exactly.
4 points. You didn't remember
I
your
did,
fourth
yeah.
point.
I mean, there's other little things I like about renting. I feel safe. The door downstairs is secure here. Packages, nothing is like sitting outside. So those are kind of little, you know, I don't wanna say-
Ring camera, but okay.
I'm gonna say first world luxuries, and not every place you rent has that. Just thinking of just throwing all the arguments.
That's fine. That's fair. Excuse me. And for some people, it will never make sense, and that's fine. We're not here to convince those. We want people that are, I want to say, not educated on it or haven't went through the analysis. We just want to bring up some points.
Yeah.
Because I'll be. Some people don't want to rent. I had an uncle that, don't want to buy. I had an uncle that rented his whole life. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's more of a personal decision.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking if you're trying to build wealth and you're trying to do something, because that's another point. When you own a home and it does appreciate, even if you don't want to sell, there's something called equity. So you can take that equity out of the house and put it towards something else. You can invest in something entirely different.
Yeah.
Or you wanted to save up for a new kitchen and you couldn't really make it work. Well, there's the equity. So it gives you some flexibility.
It does.
And if somebody's in a pinch and you have that equity, say you gotta buy a new car, or say you gotta buy something, you can use that.
Ish hits the fan, but
There
there's more power in that too. So
you own stuff.
yeah.
So again, I'm a strong believer in it. I think maybe you might be convinced slightly on some points. But yeah, any other questions about either? We can bring in some legal questions too. Anything with real estate, because we really do want to marry those two topics together.
Right. We can edit this part out. I don't know anything about law and real estate, but
You don't? You don't want to say that.
yeah, I know.
No.
Yeah. I don't. So,
Okay.
yeah. So I can't really add in that way. Yeah. Also, I'm like rapidly using spoons, just sitting here like this.
Oh, okay.
It's like really painful.
So I think that was good. Any other questions, or we should do our probably ending
A
part?
wrap up.
Yeah. So that was good. We talked about
okay,
a lot.
yeah, so I was like just hurting through it. Okay, so we can wrap
Wrap up, yeah.
For reals.
So that was good. So
it's good.
although we wanted 4 questions, we only got 3. You can send us any questions you have.
Sure.
We'll actually answer the comments.
Yeah, and if you do have any legal questions, but I think we were going to do a disclaimer. This is not official, professional advice of any kind, so...
No way, shape, or form. Always do your own due diligence, just like many of my other videos. We're only here to help. That's it. We want to help people, and that's the overarching goal. Yes, on the legal front and the real estate side, business investing, we'll get to those points, but we want to help. So, any questions you have, send them our way. And anything you wanted to, finalize or finish this up with?
That sounds good. We'll see you guys next time.
This is video 1. We'll have more, all right? Bye.